Tonight, we have breaking news just as we come on the air. The news conference just moments ago, the deadly ambush. Authorities say firefighters were lured into a deadly trap, what they've now revealed. There's also breaking news at this hour involving the Idaho college murders. The suspect in that case facing the death penalty, and now this stunning turn, what sources have told ABC News at this hour. And with the 4th of July travel now here, the severe storm set to hit New York City and Philadelphia. First tonight, what authorities just revealed. They believe firefighters were ambushed, that a deadly trap was set.
They're shot. Everybody's shot up here.
Authorities say responding to a fire deliberately set. 2 firefighters killed, 1 critically wounded. There was also news breaking just as we come on tonight in the Idaho college murder case, what would be a stunning turn for defendant Bryan Kohberger after pleading not guilty and after months of delays, what sources are now telling ABC News the defendant has agreed to. Tonight, Senate Republicans trying to push through President Trump's massive tax cut for wealthy Americans and his cuts affecting health coverage for more than 11 million Americans, food stamps and college aid as well. Tonight, some critics in his own party defying the president now, and Elon Musk again warning against the bill, and he's now threatening Republicans who vote for it. In New York City tonight, the drama just as jury deliberations begin in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. What a note from the jury indicated late today. Tonight, just as millions travel for the 4th of July, those strong storms and damaging winds along the I-95 corridor up into Philadelphia and New York City in the next 24 hours, and we're tracking it. The dramatic rescue tonight, the Disney cruise rescue boat racing to a father and daughter after the girl fell overboard, her father jumping in to save her. Record heat on opening day at Wimbledon, star player Carlos Alcaraz racing to a fan who had collapsed in the stands. And America Strong tonight, and this question: is 13 really an unlucky number? You won't believe what happened.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a Monday night. We do begin tonight with what authorities are now calling a deadly ambush. They say firefighters were lured into a deadly trap. 2 firefighters were killed in Idaho, a 3rd critically wounded. Police say they were lured into that trap by a sniper who intentionally set a wildfire and then waited for first responders to arrive. The sheriff says gunfire erupted just as those firefighters pulled up, saying these firefighters did not have a chance. Chilling radio calls tonight coming from the firefighting team under fire. Authorities launching an urgent manhunt. The suspect identified as 20-year-old Wes Rowley. His body was found with a weapon nearby. Tonight, agencies from across the region in a procession for the fallen firefighters and what authorities revealed late today in this case. ABC's Matt Gutman leading us off tonight from Idaho.
Tonight, authorities say the suspect who lured firefighters into that deadly ambush in Idaho may have dreamed of one day becoming a firefighter himself.
There is information that we've received that he at one time wanted to be a firefighter.
Late today, authorities identifying the suspect as 20-year-old Wes Rowley, releasing this image saying he deliberately started this wildfire in Canfield Mountain and Coeur d'Alene Sunday and then opened fire on first responders. 2 firefighters killed, a 3rd badly wounded. Authorities say the suspect actually interacted with the firefighters before the shooting. They'd asked him to move his vehicle.
The firefighters arrived on the scene, and his vehicle was pretty close to where the firefighters parked, and they asked him to move it, and there was some back and forth. We had to push that vehicle off the side of the mountain because we didn't want him to circle back and get in that vehicle and flee.
Tonight, the suspect's grandfather, Dale, saying he's heartbroken.
Nobody wants to think that their son or grandson is going to go do this. I feel more sad for the people that got killed than I do for him, simply because they didn't deserve it.
The horror unfolding around 1:21 p.m. Sunday afternoon, firefighters responding to a routine call-out for a brush fire near a popular trailhead. Crews racing right into a trap. By 2 p.m., 40 minutes later, gunfire and these panic calls began.
We need law enforcement immediately. We've got 2 unresponsive battalion chiefs.
First responders realizing they are under attack.
I'm pinned down behind Battalion 1's rig. It's clear to me that this fire was set intentionally to draw us in.
Police exchanging gunfire with the suspect, later using cell phone data to pinpoint his location in a wooded area. And there, 6 hours later, authorities removing the suspect's body just as the wildfire closed in.
Is there an indication that he used that shotgun that was found beside him on himself?
Yes.
Overnight, police and firefighters in that solemn procession to honor their colleagues. And tonight, officials revealing both of the fallen firefighters were beloved battalion chiefs who could have retired but stayed on. Chief Frank Harwood was 42 and the father of 2. Chief John Morrison with Coeur d'Alene Fire since 1996. And that third fire wounded, Dave Tisdale, is still in critical condition. And David, the sheriff telling me the suspect had no known criminal history, no ties to terrorism. They're pouring over his social media. I just want to give you a sense of how chaotic it was when the SWAT team pulled in to try to retrieve the bodies of those fallen firefighters. They were taking fire themselves. And at one point, they were so concerned that that suspect would wheel around and try to steal one of the vehicles that they actually pushed his vehicle off a cliff and then disabled the firefighter vehicle, slashing their tires and actually shooting into their engine block. David.
Just extraordinary what they faced, and that procession through that community deeply moving tonight. Matt, thank you. There's also news breaking at this hour in the Idaho college murders case, what sources are now telling ABC News at this hour what would be a stunning turn for defendant Bryan Kohberger. After pleading not guilty and after months of delays, what sources now say the defendant has agreed to. Here's ABC's Kayna Whitworth.
Tonight, breaking news in the University of Idaho murder case. Sources telling ABC News the man accused of the brutal slaying of 4 college students, Ethan Chapin, Xana Cornoto, Kaylee Gonzalez, and Madison Mogan, has accepted a plea deal. According to sources, Bryan Kohberger will plead guilty to all 4 counts of murder and will be sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences with no possibility of parole, and is waiving all rights to an appeal in this proposed deal. This is all in exchange for the death penalty to be taken off the table. In a letter provided to victims' families, the state will seek restitution, saying this resolution is our sincere attempt to seek justice for your family. But for every person involved, justice can look different.
Does justice lie in a conviction? I don't think there's going to ever be any justice.
I mean, yeah, we can have justice for the conviction of it, but I don't get to still hang out with Ethan. So
they still don't get to.
They don't have a son. They don't have a daughter anymore. So, is that justice? Probably not.
Now, David, a change of plea hearing is set for Wednesday. Sentencing then expected later in July. And as you mentioned, simply a stunning turn of events, David, in a case that has gripped this nation.
Kayna Whitworth with what sources are telling ABC News at this hour. Kayna, thank you. Now to Capitol Hill tonight. Senate Republicans trying to push through President Trump's massive tax cut benefiting wealthy Americans and the president's cuts affecting health coverage for more than 11 million Americans. Food stamps and college aid affected as well. Tonight, some critics in his own party defying the president, refusing to support it. One senator saying he won't run again. And Elon Musk again warning against this bill now threatening Republicans who vote for it. Mary Bruce at the White House tonight.
Tonight, Senate Republicans scrambling to push through the massive tax cuts and spending bill at the heart of President Trump's agenda.
Let's vote. This is good for America. This is good for the American people. It's good for working families.
The bill includes roughly $4 trillion in tax cuts for the wealthy, along with new funding for immigration enforcement, and fulfills some campaign pledges like no taxes on tips and overtime. It also guts Biden-era clean energy initiatives and slashes Medicaid, something Trump promised he would not do. A new estimate from the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office predicts some 11.8 million Americans would lose their health coverage over the next decade.
It's the biggest Medicaid cut in history and represents the largest transfer of wealth in history. It is caviar over kids, hedge funds over health care.
Trump insists the Medicaid cuts only target waste, fraud, and abuse. But a member of his own party, Republican Senator Thom Tillis of North Carolina, says the president doesn't understand his own bill.
So what do I tell 663,000 people in 2 years or 3 years when President Trump breaks his promise by pushing them off of Medicaid because the funding's not there anymore, guys? In the White House, senators advising the president are not telling him that the effect of this bill is to break a promise.
Trump furious with Tillis, threatening to primary him, but Tillis refusing to cave, instead announcing he won't run for re-election, saying leaders who are willing to embrace bipartisanship, compromise, and demonstrate independent thinking are becoming an endangered species. Other Republicans alarmed by the bill's price tag, which by one estimate would add at least $3.3 trillion to the debt over the next 10 years. Tonight at the 11th hour, Elon Musk swooping in again, declaring every Congress member who votes yes should hang their head in shame, threatening they will lose their primary next year if it is the last thing I do on this earth.
And Republicans in the Senate want to vote on this bill tonight. Reminder, they can only afford to lose 3 Republicans and still pass this. And right now, more than that remain undecided. And even if this bill ultimately passes the Senate, it then goes back to the House, where Speaker Johnson has that razor-thin majority. And already some Republicans are opposing the changes made in the Senate, David.
Mary Bruce tracking this into the night at the White House there. Mary, thank you. Now, just as millions travel for the July 4th holiday, the severe storms, damaging winds moving up the I-95 corridor, Philadelphia, New York City, all included in this. Ginger Z is standing by with the forecast, and Stephanie Ramos on the challenges already tonight.
Tonight, families packing airports and highways, getting a head start on the 4th of July. If you thought last year was busy, AAA says buckle up. 1.3 million more of us will be hitting the road this year than last. Driving the increase? The lowest summer gas prices in more than 4 years, according to AAA. Gas Buddy says the national average is just $3.14 a gallon. And experts say the busiest days to drive are July 2nd, that's Wednesday, and Sunday, July 6th. But it's not all smooth sailing. In Washington County, Maryland this morning, a wind turbine blade slid off a truck, blocking Interstate 70. One person was hurt. And southwest of Savannah Sunday, multiple Amtrak passengers rushed to the hospital with heat exhaustion after being stuck for hours. As always, weather is the X factor. Over the weekend, massive tornadoes tore across the northern plains, and dozens of planes at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport were taken out of service after wind and hailstorms.
David, right now here at LaGuardia and other Northeast airports, delays are starting to pile up due to thunderstorms in the area. David.
Yeah, and I fear that could get much worse in the next 24 hours. Steph, thank you. Let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z, of course, tracking these storms moving right into the Northeast. Hi, Ginger.
Hi, David. The impacts from tonight's storms, I would call the appetizer to the main dish of severe weather that's coming for us tomorrow afternoon. Let's go ahead and go through the maps. Those slow-moving storms could produce 1 to 2 inch per hour rainfall rates for Baltimore and Washington, D.C. are in a flood watch right now. Pittsburgh also in that. But watch as the cold front approaches. And by tomorrow afternoon, I'd say after 4 p.m., you really need to start paying attention to that area that we've highlighted. That's a level 2 out of 5. Baltimore and Washington, D.C. are back in it. We stop the clock at 7 p.m. when this computer model has those storms coming through Philadelphia, New York City, and even into Connecticut. The damaging wind in excess of 70 miles per hour would be the main hazard with that. Lightning on those runways is never good either. And then by the holiday, it's looking much better, David, for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. Just a stormy bit as we go toward the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, just got to get through these next 24 hours. Everyone be safe out there on the roads. Ginger, thank you. We'll see you first thing in the morning. Here in New York City tonight, the dramatic moments involving the jury now in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. Just 5.5 hours now into deliberations, and notes already for that judge. ABC's chief investigative correspondent Eric Gutersky with what those jurors are already signaling tonight.
Tonight, a potential snag as the jury begins deciding the racketeering and sex trafficking charges against Sean Combs. An hour into deliberations, the foreperson sent a note saying they were concerned one of the jurors cannot follow your honor's instructions. That juror is a 51-year-old scientist with a doctorate in molecular biology. The note did not make clear what the issue was, and the judge sent back a note of his own, telling the jury to follow his instructions and return to deliberations. The 8 men and 4 women are deciding whether Combs ran a criminal enterprise with employees who prosecutors said serviced the defendant's every desire through a methodical pattern of violence, coercion, and manipulation, procured drugs, and stocked hotel rooms with baby oil and lubricant. Combs has denied all the charges, and the defense argued his employees were simply buying items for a celebrity boss, telling the jury, I don't expect that we're going to see Beyonce in CVS. The jurors are now deciding 5 criminal counts. When there's a verdict, they'll fill out this form and deliver it to the judge. Late today, David, the jury sent another note asking about some of the drug allegations that support the racketeering conspiracy charge. Then they went home for the day after about 5.5 hours of deliberations. They'll be back at it here tomorrow, David.
Eric Gutersky following this trial from the start. Aaron, thank you. The dramatic rescue tonight, the Disney cruise rescue boat racing to a father and daughter after the girl fell overboard and that father then jumping in to try to save his daughter. Here's ABC's Victor Oquendo now.
Tonight, you're watching dramatic moments on the high seas. Rescue boats racing to a father and daughter who went overboard. The pair treading choppy waters. Watch as the crew on that small yellow boat from the Disney Dream pulls the two on board. The Disney ship was returning to Fort Lauderdale Sunday after a 4-night Bahamian cruise. Passengers tell us the girl somehow fell off and her dad jumped in after her. Gail Merrick was on board and heard from other passengers the girl fell from the 4th floor deck.
I just saw a bunch of the staff running outside on the 4th floor deck, and I figured something had happened.
An emergency code for man overboard went out on the ship's intercom, and the crew immediately went into rescue mode.
I think it was really heroic. I mean, he jumped in after her, and they were treading water, and he was just holding on to her.
Passengers thankful this wasn't worse.
I felt sick to my stomach. I had goosebumps the whole time, and I don't think I breathed until they returned to the ship. We all cheered.
David, that ship is docked back in Florida tonight. Disney praising the crew for their swift actions. David?
Victor Oquendo with us. We're glad they're okay, Victor. Thanks. To the economy tonight, the stock market setting new records. The Dow Jones jumping 275 points, closing at 44,094. The NASDAQ hitting an all-time high, gaining 96 points, closing at 20,369. And a record day for the S&P 500, up 31 points, finishing at 6204. When we come back here tonight, the deadly plane crash, at least 6 killed. Also the NBA star and the gambling investigation tonight, what we're learning. And then record heat on opening day at Wimbledon. The dramatic moment you'll see it, star player Carlos Alcaraz racing to a fan in the stands in a moment here. Tonight, the NTSB is now investigating the deadly plane crash in Ohio, not far from Youngstown. Authorities say all 6 on board were killed, including 2 experienced pilots and 4 passengers. The twin-engine Cessna going down behind a home just after takeoff, just 2 miles from the runway, bursting into flames. Officials say the plane was headed to Bozeman, Montana. Tonight, ESPN is now reporting that Detroit Pistons guard Malik Beasley is reportedly under investigation for gambling related to NBA games. Beasley's attorney says his client has not been charged and is asking fans to reserve judgment. The Pistons say they are cooperating with the investigation. Beasley was in talks to extend his contract with the team. Those talks now reportedly on hold. When we come back here tonight, record heat on opening day at Wimbledon. What you'll see here in a moment, star player Carlos Alcaraz and what he suddenly had to do, rushing to the stands in a moment. To the index tonight, record heat taking its toll on players and spectators on the first day of Wimbledon in England, of course. The temperature hitting 91 today, shattering the previous record for the first day of 86 that was set in 2001. Players trying to cool off with ice today, and then one of the top players in the world, Carlos Alcaraz, racing to offer his water bottle after a spectator collapsed. Luckily, she'll get that water bottle now for life. When we come back tonight, America Strong, and it centers on this question tonight: is 13 really an unlucky number? You're not going to believe what happened.